Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I'm your host, Sean Garmer. Here with me, as always, Mr. Marc Morrison.
Howdy.
And joining us, been a little while here for Chapter Select's Jens Dietrich.
Good to be here.
Well, glad to have you and Randy back on Chapter Select. I've listened to a few episodes. I'm trying to catch up. Y'all are doing a fantastic job over there.
Oh, thank you.
It's cool to have that perspective of Randy loves that series, knows everything about it, and you know a lot, but you're like me, you don't remember much about the games at this point, so you're kind of watching it more as a series.
That's the gist, but I think opinion-wise, I think Randy and I are pretty aligned on this so far.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I don't know if we might talk about some thoughts on have you seen the latest episode from yesterday?
I haven't yet. No, I'm behind.
Oh, okay. Well, we might just kind of get a thought on everything from 1 to 4 so far, I guess.
Sure.
So along with that, we of course got talk on the latest Nintendo Direct that happened this week. Jens has been playing Hogwarts Legacy, so we will talk about that, and only in respect to the game. And
what else to talk about, really?
Yeah, exactly.
There's not a huge controversy going on constantly when anybody ever mentions that game.
I don't read the discourse.
Yeah, but yes, I played the Sea of Stars demo that came out alongside that direct. Marc's beaten Forspoken, so we get a little bit more of that as well, and we're gonna discuss all that and more right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right. Well, I know it's Superbowl Sunday. Everybody's getting ready for the game. This is what's going to be our regular recording time here around Sundays at 6 p.m. or so. So hopefully we can keep this schedule. But if this is the first time you're watching us or listening to us later, I thank you, or you've been watching or listening to us. Appreciate that as well. Just really quick here, remember you can watch us on the W2 Network everywhere, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all that stuff live, or you can then watch it on demand on YouTube later or listen on demand later wherever it is that you get your podcast. Remember, subscribe Video Games to the Max to get us anytime we do a show. The old W2 Network feed is gone. Same thing with Chapter Select. Make sure you subscribe Chapter Select to get anytime Jens and Randy do an episode as well. And if you haven't checked, they have a new Super Mario Brothers movie commercial to go along on the Super Bowl as well. So everybody get ready for that. I wonder if they're going to actually have another trailer during the actual event. We'll have to watch that later. So I guess let's go ahead and start with what's been the hot button game for the last week or so, Jens.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say you're a big fan of the series in general, or?
I read the first, I think, 4.5 books when the books were coming out. And I saw all the movies. And then I haven't really thought about it very much in a long time. But I did play quite a few, back when those movies were coming out regularly, there was usually a game from Warner Brothers going along with them.
That Gears of Harry Potter game.
Yeah, there were a lot of, and there were some that were kind of more platformery, but they were all kind of third-person action adventure games. Though none of them, if I remember correctly, were open world like this one. So this is the first one that kind of, fulfills that promise of giving us that photorealistic, complete Hogwarts to walk around. Which again is not really a setting that is. I wouldn't say it's particularly close to my heart or anything, but it is a setting that we know and we understand, and we've spent a lot of time in other media defining exactly what it needs to look like and what the geometry of it is and everything that's in there. And the question Sorry, Sean.
I was gonna say, do you feel like it lives up to that. Like
that's what I'm getting at. Is I do actually like. I'm really impressed with this. Not necessarily like as an open world game. If we're going to go into the nitty gritty of that, there really isn't that much to talk about. Like it kind of is a check the box open world game that gives you really what you expect in terms of gameplay. But the impressive thing is just the world, right? Like the amount of little puzzles and secrets and details that are kind of scattered in every corner of that map. And so far, I mean, I'm about 6 hours or so in. So I've opened up, I've got Hogwarts opened up, and I've got kind of the surrounding, Hogsmeade, and then there's a bunch of other surrounding villages that you can now visit and do quests in and go kind of into the Forbidden Forest and all those kind of things. So that stuff's all opened up. So it's kind of doing what I want more open world games to do, which is, don't focus so much on scale. Obviously it's a significant area, and not to say it's a small area or anything so far, but it really is dense. It seems like they focused more on, okay, let's just do Hogwarts and just do, Hogwarts to a T. That seems to have been, that's what I want. I want the kind of, I remember being very impressed, back when, not that it was any good because it wasn't, but when we first saw Assassin's Creed Unity and you saw, Versailles and those like appointed, those like gilded chairs and all that ornate sculpturing and all that stuff. When you first saw it, same thing with like the Demon's Souls remake. I just like that kind of architecture, so I'm always drawn to games that have that kind of art design. And of course, all the Harry Potter art design is something that's like well established. We've got so much art from just the movies to look to, and the theme parks and all that stuff. So when you go to Hogsmeade looks exactly like you'd expect. Just like everything in the game looks and feels exactly like you'd expect. So in that regard, I think it's a huge success. It's definitely the best, giving you that living a Harry Potter experience that you want on a core basis. Now, gameplay-wise, like the combat, it's spellcasting. It's as if like Souls spellcasting and Batman Arkham Asylum ran into each other, because it has that range spellcasting feel, but then also, it'll pop icons over your character's head to show you that like now you need to block and counter and all those kind of things that are more timed. So it's doing the like timing based counter system on top of you're doing range spellcasting with right stick targeting and all that kind of stuff, and then putting your abilities on the face buttons, and then the face buttons with a trigger modifier. So it's, and you fan the trigger, at least on PlayStation. I don't know how that's implemented on Xbox, but on PlayStation you just fan the trigger for a regular attack, and when you hold the trigger down, it then gives you your spell menu. That's combat. Let's see. Learning spells is like a little mini game where you're guiding an arrow down a little path and doing some. It's almost like hitting, like a rhythm mini game where you're hitting specific prompts, except it works more as an accelerant, where like your cursor will cross over an X or square or whatever, and then you press X or square, and it'll accelerate you. And there is like a little, there's like a wave of red kind of following behind you that you can't let catch up to you, so you have to outrun kind of a thing. With your cursor, make it all the way to the goal, and then you've unlocked the spell. Trying to think of what else there is. There are a lot of little, like the puzzles. The puzzles are fairly, it's like a line, a reflection the right way, so that it's pointing in, so it looks correct. Or, do some math puzzles where you're doing some basic algebra to open some doors. And then there's a lot of Metroidvania type stuff where there's just all manner of things around the castle that you can only interact with certain spells. So you'll be finding them early on, and then, once you're a few hours in or deeper into the game, depending. Like I just got a spell an hour or so ago. That's basically like an invisibility spell that you use for stealth sections. Like it's not complete invisibility, but it's like a partial, you're harder to see kind of things. And then I realized like, oh, these particular chests that have an eye on them, now I can like sneak up to them and open them. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like, oh, you've got a new ability, so now new stuff in the castle opens up to you. And the castle really is jam-packed. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of the basics. The setting, they did a smart thing with the setting. They set it 100 years, 150 years or so before the movie. It's like late 19th century.
Yeah.
Around the time that's just the new movies that are terrible.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's going to try and tie into that. Well, no, it's like 30, 40 years away from like the Grindelwald stuff. So I don't think it's trying to tie into anything from the movies.
Yeah, it's trying to be its own standalone thing, so you don't have to worry about putting those characters in there. And
exactly, and because the wizarding world really doesn't evolve very quickly, the look and feel of it is still basically the same.
Just like the British.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter, right? You wouldn't really know that it's any different because you're spending all your time in Hogwarts and surrounding area. You're not really spending your time in 19th century London or anything. So it's just a way to get out of the movie's way.
Is this game just Magical Bully?
It is not Magical Bully.
That's a shame.
And I mean, the thing that sets it apart pretty clearly is that Bully has that timed mechanic where it's simulating like a day-night cycle, and it also has like actual class schedules and stuff. Classes in this Harry Potter game are just quests. It's just, here's your next quest is attend this class. And you go there and there's a cutscene, and then you do a couple of, mini game things with the teacher, and then you learn a new spell maybe, and then that's that quest complete. It's not as flexible as something like Bully. In fact, I would compare it almost, it's not quite as bad, but it's like getting there in terms of linearity to something like Mafia 2, where it just gives you, here's your quest chain. You're going to do every quest in this chain. There's no real choices, at least so far from what I've seen. Maybe there are dialogue trees, but the dialogue trees have just been, respond really enthusiastically or respond a little bit more reservedly. That's usually your choice. Or like ask for more information or don't. So there haven't been like any big, telltale game like story arc changing or, like you're going to get a different ending kind of decisions. There's been nothing like that. And there really hasn't been any branching or anything. It has been check off every box, do every quest, do every side quest so far, except for the really dumb ones, which are just collect-a-thon. There is a lot of collect-a-thon stuff. And this is something that I've always had a bit of an issue with Avalanche games doing that, like tying XP to collectibles. And they did it again. I forget, they did it in one of the Just Cause games, at least one that really annoyed me. And they did it in this one. But it makes more sense in Harry Potter because, a big part of the game is exploring the castle and doing all the puzzles and finding all the collectibles and things. So it makes more sense here than in their other games. It also is I feel a more accessible game than previous Avalanche games, like whether Mad Max or Just Cause or any of those. I feel like I've run into either a boredom wall or a difficulty wall in each one of their games, and I have not had that yet with this, and I don't expect to because it seems to be a fairly mild-mannered game in terms of difficulty. The story is, what I keep saying what you would expect, but it really is, because it is it's a chosen one story. You're special. There is and this is kind of a new addition to the canon, there's this ancient magic that apparently was in use, a couple hundred years prior to the setting of the game and hasn't been used in a long time. But they used to do it to do like, almost like terraforming, like we restored this, horribly destroyed landscape back to being green and lush, kind of thing. And your character is special in that you're the only one who can see and interact with this ancient magic, and of course people want to control it. And you start off with finding this key that is a port key, which port keys in Harry Potter are like you touch them and they teleport you somewhere. And that is what happens here. You get teleported to a vault in Gringotts, and you start finding clues towards this ancient magic and making use of it. And of course, you're the only one who. There's a teacher that's your main confidant early on in the game, Professor Fig, who takes you to Hogwarts and gives you your early instructions and some spells kind of before you get there. Because the other thing with it narratively is you're a latecomer. You're like a fifth year. So like you're coming in as a new student into senior year immediately without really the background that the other students have, but you're a quick learner, because you're special. So that does, it means that you're on an accelerated training schedules. All the professors are giving you like extra lessons, and you have to catch up real quick, which you can. You learn spells pretty quickly. I mean, I'm only like, as I said, 6 hours in or so, and I've learned like 7 or 8 spells at this point. That is one weakness. I feel like there is not enough. They need a better way of managing all those spells, because they really only give you those 4 face buttons. And then I find myself frequently going into the configuration menu to, change the slotting around, because, and now I need Reparo. Okay, well, I got to change fire out for repair, and I got to change, light or Lumos out for levitation, whatever you're doing. You'll be once you're a little bit deeper into it, and especially if you're doing the Metroidvania type stuff, you are changing spells out a lot. And it's a little cumbersome. So that's a complaint.
Yeah, I mean, at least it sounds like, for the most part, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you should be really happy with this game as far as it accomplishes kind of everything that you want it to.
And it gives you all the moments, it gives you the sorting hat. It gives you getting your first wand. It gives you all those kind of iconic things that you want from a Harry Potter experience. And I think better than most other games that have attempted to convey that world. I think if you're a Harry Potter fan, you absolutely should play this. For me, it's just, a kind of a neat open world game that I'm liking a lot. And curious to see where it goes. Graphically, it looks good. It's not like amazing or anything. It looks like a modern AAA video game,
Yeah.
But the attention to detail to the world is quite something. And whenever a new section of the world opens up, or you get to a new part of the castle, it's always impressive.
Yeah. So I mean, for it seems like you pretty much nailed everything. You went through everything, so I don't necessarily have to ask a lot of questions. But so is it basically like it kind of just drops you in the world, gives you a start, and then you kind of follow your own whatever you want to do, or is there
it's very
story?
directed? Yeah, the story is that you're in pursuit, like you're going to classes and doing your typical Hogwarts school year things, dueling club and herbology and potions and defense against the dark arts. So those are all, that's like a series of quests, is going to all those classes and competitions and things. But then the other part of the story is that you and Professor Fig are following the clues to this ancient magic, and there's also some people after you who want to take you out because you're the chosen one. And that's kind of where I currently am. Representation-wise, I will give this game some props. Firstly, because it has actually good hair options for Black characters, which is a rarity.
That's good.
A real rarity in character creators.
Not just afro size.
Yeah, not just afros, but like your short frilly hair, your long frill. It gives you real options, which is nice. In fact, I thought the black character model options were generally better. So I am actually playing a black girl protagonist, and early on in the game they give you two options of who your best friend is going to be starting out, and one of them is this student from Uganda, and one of them is this preppy white kid, and I picked the student from Uganda. So we have these, in my game at least, you have kind of these two black girls having adventures around Hogwarts, while everybody's using non-gendered. I mean, this makes some sense, right? Because you've got a male-female character creator picker, which they don't use the words, so that's another thing. They don't explicitly call it male-female. They use gender-neutral terminology throughout the dialogue. There is a maybe token. It feels like maybe it's a late edition or something, or they needed to address something. But there is trans representation in the game. The bartender in Hogsmeade is a trans character. So it feels
the waitress and Catherine.
It feels surprisingly woke by Harry Potter standards, like relative to what's in the books and movies.
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing is that like they're not. The developers and everybody else involved with the game are trying to show that they don't represent the author's views. So it makes sense that they did have that representation because you are, even if you have the boycott going on or you're not wanting to buy the game for whatever reason, it is still good to show that you do have all this trans representation in the community. So good on them for still doing it, even if people are going to say, "Oh, it's very token," or it doesn't feel genuine.
It's hard to judge yet how genuine it is. Like, I don't know yet how much they're going to do with that character, if they're going to do anything with that character, or if it's just, oh shit, like which side character can we make trans at the last minute,
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do with that. But I was pleasantly, I'm not going to put any kind of value judgment on it. I was just surprised by it,
Your camera froze, I think, about like 10 minutes ago.
Oh no, that's no good. That's no good.
I didn't want to stop you in mid-flow because you were like going. So, but it's okay because on the audio it's fine.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but either way, I think, I mean, unless you have like anything else you really want to say about the game, how far would you say, I guess hour-wise, like how many hours have you put?
Yes, like about 6 hours deep. Still Act 1, I believe. So I have no idea. How long, no clue how long it is.
Out of 14 acts.
Really?
No, I'm
kidding.
I'm going to check how long to beat for Hogwarts.
Probably like 20 hours, probably less, maybe like 15.
Let's see. 29 and a half hours average. Main story 26, main and side 33.
Yeah, there are 13 chapters total in Hogwarts Legacy.
Okay, I don't know enough if I'm in chapter. Yeah. I don't know what chapter I'm in. I haven't seen. There have not been delineated chapters. So.
Oh, okay. So
maybe I'm still in chapter 1, or maybe I'm way deeper, and I don't know. I just know that.
You got past the prologue, and then
past the prologue, and then up until the point like gotten my wand. Won the big dueling competition, the first one. I've got potions down now. I feel like I've gone through, like they've tutorialized pretty much everything, and they take their sweet time for introducing those things. You don't get your wand until like 2 hours, 3 hours in. Yeah, it progresses at a good pace though.
And that's positive. From the most part, everybody that's genuinely tried to review the game seems to be very positive about it, that it is the experience that people wanted. You have some folks even saying an early game of the year contender, so we'll see.
I could see it. I mean, if it continues, if it keeps up the good work, at the moment it still feels like it's going a little bit through the motions of an open world game. But I fully expect that as we get in deeper, that there's going to be more. So here's hoping. I just really like the world. That's the thing that is the big standout. So,
hey, at the end of the day, that's what matters. That you enjoy it, and that's why you got it.
I'm thinking, and I know it's probably too early to say this, but I'm thinking it may be my favorite Avalanche game. Because every other Avalanche game I've fallen off at some point.
Yeah, it's not a high bar. I mean, they've only made like 6, and a few of those have been pretty terrible.
No, I wouldn't say none of them are terrible. It's just they all had something off-putting. Like
I mean,
in
Just
Mad
Cause-
Max, it was the big empty world with all that repetitious content.
Yeah, I'd say Just Cause 4 and Mad Max are kind of terrible.
I wouldn't say. I think there's great stuff in Mad Max. I just feel like it needs to be tighter, and that's the biggest compliment I can give Hogwarts so far. Is it feels very tight. It feels like they've really packed it with interesting stuff, and there isn't a lull of any kind yet. So.
All right, well, that's definitely positive that you're enjoying it. You haven't gotten anything that you're disliked so far. You've also been playing a game that from last year that a lot of folks I saw some really were putting it on their game of the year lists. And
really,
things like that people were enjoying. Yeah,
Evil West just making people's game of the year lists.
Well, I mean, we're not like the game of the year. I mean, talking about like if they make a top 10, some folks are putting it on there.
Wow.
So yeah, you're talking about Evil West, a game that I was very interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how are you? I guess for people who maybe just heard the name and don't know what it is, like what kind of game is it?
It's a third-person shooter with a lot of arena-style combat. If I were to compare it to anything, the game that it reminds me the most of is Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine.
Okay.
So it's got a really good combat system. Like all the weapons are really satisfying for about the first half of the game when you're unlocking kind of the first half of your armory. They do a nice job of putting every item or weapon on a different face button or just button on the controller, so that you don't actually have to go to like a weapon wheel for a very long time. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, shotgun is X, and then if you hold the trigger without aiming, it's your it's your handguns, and if you hold the trigger down, it's your rifle. So I really like what they did with the weapon layout, because it makes it gets around the issue that you always have in shooters on console of weapon switching. How do you do fast weapon switching? Well, and in Evil West, that is solved really nicely. Until later when it's like, okay, now we're going to give you a flamethrower and some other stuff that we have to put on the D-pad. And it's not quite as elegant, but it feels really good. It feels like they spent like a lot of the effort in this game was spent on getting like a satisfying combat system out of it. And the story, it's a steampunk Wild West with vampires, and you're going after some kind of a vampire cure, or how do we either kill or cure all vampires kind of thing after a big outbreak. And that is pretty much it. You're going on this quest, fighting your way through just hordes and hordes of your classic, your exploding mobs, your regular zombies, your heavies with a big axe, your werewolves. It's a lot of typical video game enemies. It's really nothing, as you can see from the footage here. There's him fighting some werewolves and some flying enemies. So yeah, it's just it's a third-person shooter that feels extremely old-fashioned. It feels like a game that escaped the 360 era a little bit, in the way that one thing that kind of annoys me is that it does a lot of like cordoning off areas and limiting which way, like you can't backtrack to certain, once you pass this point, it's a point of no return. There's a lot of that, like, oh, you climbed up this rope, well, you can't come back down. If you if you
so it's
something.
really, really linear then.
It's very linear. At the most, it will branch like to go to like a little dead end where there's a collectible or a treasure, like a treasure chest or something. But yeah, if you miss it, you can't go back. The puzzles are very basic. You might push a cart around to get up onto a higher ledge, or we're currently at a point kind of late in the game where you got to turn a bunch of generators on. So you got to like throw a power switch, run across the level, traverse a bunch of environment, and then throw another switch within a time limit kind of thing. Very basic. But yeah, what you're really here for is the combat, and the combat gets pretty elaborate because your weapon upgrades are really good. Like you get like lightning upgrades that make chains. You got like a leap where you can either use it to pull yourself towards enemies or pull enemies towards you, and then do finishers. Yeah, it's a pretty good combat system. But you are fighting. I feel like you're fighting the same like 4 or 5 enemy types for most of that game, and I'm at the point where I'm ready for it to be over. I think I'm probably like a couple levels away from the ending.
Are you so you can? Is it something you can play by yourself, or you have to play co-op? Or
you can play it by yourself. In fact, I think it's made to be played by yourself. When you're playing co-op, it does have some of the funny, like there's a couple of segments, like there'll be on rails kind of minecart segments, or there are a couple of like mini game set pieces that the second player can't even participate in, where only the only the host player does it, and the second player just watches.
So it's like Resident Evil 5.
Yeah, it's like Resident Evil 5 that way, where didn't really account for a second player.
Or Resident Evil 6, really.
Oh, 6. No, 6 is no. 6 is made to be a co-op game, though.
Yeah,
I mean, 5 is as well. No. 6 has Resident Evil 6. I just want to correct this because this is nonsense what you're saying. Resident Evil 6 has thought carefully about what each player is going to be doing in each of the big set pieces. Come on now. It's giving. Sure. No, this is literally you're both the same guy. Like you're just the same character model, and there's just a second one of you now, and it works 90% of the time, except for the bits where it was not designed to. So it's a nice option. I actually think it's a fun co-op game. I wouldn't be playing it if it wasn't for co-op, but it obviously is made to be a single player game.
All right, I mean. It sounded like kind of like a mixed review there. Of there's definitely some positives and
it's a little janky. Every now and then, we've had some weird bugs where like the sound is cut out and then the game starts freezing or the frame rate starts going down. Actually, it reminds me of the developer's other game, Shadow Warrior 2. Which Marc and I tried to play and had all sorts of weird like stuttering.
Yeah, we played like one time and that was it.
Yeah. Weirdly, the Xbox version that was much more stable actually was able to beat that with somebody. But then we tried to play it on PlayStation and there was just no going. And this is not that bad, but it has some similar jank. You can definitely tell it's the Shadow Warrior developers making it.
All right. I mean, yeah. I guess if you wanted to play more Shadow Warriors, I guess Shadow Warrior 3 is on PlayStation Plus and about to be on Game Pass in a couple of days. So
I hear that's not good.
Yeah, I heard similar things as well, that it's not.
I really liked the second one, apart from the issues, and that also had really good gunplay, which is what this game has to recommend it. Like if you're really in the mood for like an old fashioned, like I just want a blast from the past, like. One of the games of which there were 3 released every week on Xbox back in the day,
Yeah, that's true.
It's that. So yeah, if you like that, I always have time in my heart for those kinds of games.
They're making that definitive edition of Shadow Warrior 3 in like 4 days.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it'll be fixed.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, just because it has a definitive edition doesn't mean that it necessarily is any better or worse. But yeah, I've because my schedule got switched again, I haven't really been able to play a lot of stuff. I have quite a backlog, and then this week is not helping with the games that are going to come out as well. So the demo that I played, which is something that was announced at the Direct, a game that I've been really excited for, is Sea of Stars, which is basically it's like a Kickstarter game that was made with basically like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI in mind, and it actually technically is a prequel to The Messenger. So it's set like I think like 150 or 200 years before The Messenger or whatever, but who knows how much actual like with The Messenger it's going to have. But The demo that they released, it's only on the Switch, by the way. You can't, even though it is coming to PS4, PS5, and PC, you can only put the demo on the Switch. So I think Octopath Traveler 2 is the same way. That demo is only on the Switch as well. So yeah, it looks nice. The pixel art is very SNES inspired. You get to choose whether you control the mage Valerie or the fire magic male character, and then you kind of have like a third character that's like your cook and all of that with you. And they don't really go over a lot of story stuff in that demo. It's probably about an hour long. It's more really to do what really most demos should do, which is kind of give you a taste of the gameplay, which is heavy Chrono Trigger inspired. You know, you have the characters on the screen. It pauses a little bit for them to basically form their formation, and then they start. It's actually kind of neat that it's not like rigid turn-based, right? So you have your characters that will have turns, and then a little number will appear on top of the player, on top of the enemy, that tells you, okay, you got 2 turns. You could pick whichever one of the 3 you want to attack or whatever, and then in 2 of those turns, one of the enemies are going to attack. So it's not like, okay, well, your whole party goes and then they go and they keep taking turns like a lot of turn-based games. So that's, to me, is an interesting note on that. They also have a thing that I think I mentioned when I talked about Chain Echoes, where your mana there's a low mana in this game, so you don't get to just spam skills all the time. You can do a skill, your mana goes away, and then you have to do an attack to get the mana back. And you kind of like alternate in that way instead of just, I've got like 50 MP and I can just keep spamming the skill till I kill everything. And I think with all of that, it makes sort of the gameplay more challenging than maybe you would get. I don't know where this is in the game. Obviously, it doesn't really tell you. You just kind of get dropped on this port city with a bunch of pirate ships, and things start happening. It seems very like comical, sort of. Like the whole premise is when you start is you're trying to recruit this like band of pirates to come help you find something, and they immediately have a gag where you have to beat them in an arm wrestling match in order to get them to help you. Right. And so the one guy that shows up, he's this really skinny dude. And then all of a sudden, when you're about to start, he turns into this like muscly guy and he destroys your character that chooses to do the arm wrestling match in like a couple seconds. Then they help you anyway. But I guess, it's letting you know that it's kind of lighthearted in a way, not too serious. But I've really been excited for this game. I've been paying attention to the Kickstarter stuff when it's been coming out, and I'm glad that it's sort of like living up to what I thought it was going to be. And man, August 29th can't come fast enough for me to be able to play the full game. So, if you've been looking forward to it, I definitely would tell you to check out the demo because it's well worth your time, and it's short. So, and also, I don't know if it ends on Monday or how long it is, but that Steam Next Fest is going on as well. So if you want to try out some games on PC, definitely do that. There's a lot of games to try out there too. Mark, you beat Forspoken now.
Yep.
Any different thoughts now after you have? Do you still feel the same after you beat it? Do you now that I guess you got all the magic right after you had to?
Yeah, I did. They give you there's like 4 schools of magic: earth, air, fire, water. You just need Heart to summon Captain Planet, which you don't get until the DLC. You get one of them. You get air like super late in the game, like 95% done with the game. It's like, you get this 4th one unlocked, and it's like, what? Like, shouldn't this happen like chapter 10, not chapter 11 and a half? Because there's only 12 chapters in the game. Chapter 13 is like the new game plus chapter, or like complete everything else you want. So it's really weird. But
yeah, that was kind of the thing that I've gotten from you that you've mentioned is like, it feels like they didn't balance this very well. Like, why would you introduce one magic and then wait till way later in the game to start introducing the other ones when this is a sort of magic and focused game?
Yeah, like that. I don't know if you played the demo, Jens, but me and Sean did that when they released that demo like a month ago. Like that is like at least halfway through the game.
Oh, okay.
And it's bizarre. It's like what, like at that point you're used to how the game plays, but if you're just dumped into it, you have no idea. So that's why people were like pissed at the demo.
Mm-hmm.
But the demo like is much more representative of what the game should be, because the first quarter of the game when you just have earth magic sucks. Speaking of technical performance, that game is weird. It like has some great moments. Like loading in that game is fantastic. You can load from like one area of the map to the other, like halfway across the map, and basically it takes 3 seconds.
Neat.
And it's like, wow, this is like Spider-Man, or like this is like what they promised that no game, like few games ever do.
Mm-hmm.
But then like one time I loaded into like the main town and I did the dancing mini game. And like, I went through one round, it was fine. The second round, like, it started like lagging behind.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third round, my PS5 died. Like, it just crashed to the desktop. And it's like, huh, okay. I think it's not the actress's fault, because I know she's been getting a lot of crap online. But the main character is like really insufferable.
Is it what is it better?
I mean, is it her or Cuff that's insufferable?
No, it's her.
Writing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the writing, because she keeps bitching about, like, she's like, oh, I got to go back to New York, and she's obsessed with it. And it's like, you're homeless, you have no money, you have no friends. It's like, why would you want to go back there? Like,
right.
Yes, this world has like dangers, like, the fantasy world has dangers, but hey, you at least got some friends. Like, the only people in like the real world that care about her is like this like judge kind of, and like the street gang who sets her house on fire. And it's like, huh, okay. Why would you want to go back home?
Yeah, she has like nothing to go back home to. So what do you know?
So it's bizarre. I think I was telling Jens, I hate how like the character looks, kind of. Like, she has no cosmetics. You're just wearing the same crappy uniform all the time. The only thing you ever change is like your cloak, and it's like, this could have done with some cosmetics here, like at least something.
Right, giving you something to rearrange and put in your own.
Yeah. I mean, the story is more or less okay, and like combat is like very rhythm focused. I found, so I actually got used to it kind of, but there's a big learning curve with it. And some stuff is just so non-essential or so not needed that it's like, why is this here? Yeah, that green magic, you get like 95% of the way through the game, and it's like, all right,
wow.
I guess. Like,
that doesn't make any sense. Like, why you would wait? Like, when you get towards the end of the game, that's when you should be trying to get the player to like hone their skills and get ready for like the barrage of bosses and stuff like that. Not like, oh, let me introduce a really key magic at the end. Like,
I think you might be able to get out of that like chapter 11, because you're in like a pretty like story heavy sequence. You might be able to like leave that temporarily to like go do other stuff. But like once you hit chapter 12, it's like one long continuous story sequence. You can't get out of it. It's like one big boss, like over and over boss fight, and it's like, all right, I guess. I like the game, but it's the perfect game to like just put on a podcast or put on a TV show and really ignore the game.
So like, if you're say pitching this to somebody and go, okay, I want to buy it on a sale, right? I wanted to buy. Let's say it goes down to like $40 or $30, and you're thinking about, let me buy it on a sale. Like, what is the positives of this game that you would enjoy if you like? Let's say you're a big, like me or someone that's like, okay, I buy most of Square Enix's stuff. This is another Square Enix joint. Like,
I mean, I'd say I'd say get Strangers of Paradise probably.
Okay, get that instead,
or get Hogwarts, because that's probably a better game.
All right, I think that says a lot.
But I mean, like the thing is, I still had a decent time with Forspoken. I'll probably platinum that game just because it's really monotonous, and just tedious to do. Like you're just doing the same 5 things over and over. So
it's always the determinant of whether you're going to platinum a game is how monotonous it is. Is it monotonous enough?
That's why I plowed through Sonic Frontiers in like 4 days.
Yeah,
right.
Because I don't like a game that challenges me. I just like a game that has a nice even line. Yeah. And Forspoken is not challenging at all.
That's good.
Okay.
I beat the main boss. I don't know if I was like over leveled or not. And there's some ways to kind of break your character like with your gear. But I had like 17 health potions. I used like 6. And that was it. And it's like this is not challenging. So yeah.
I mean, so I guess you're at the end. You beat the game. What is your? You still have to write the review. If you're gonna write the review right now, what is your score?
I gave it an 8, but I gave it under the condition that like it's very conditional on like how much you like just like collecting shit. Or like, if you like collecting feathers in Ubisoft games, like Assassin's Creed games, or doing that type of stuff, then it's fine. But if you want like a challenge or a good story or good music, because the music was terrible in this game, I thought.
I don't know. That's not reading like an 8 to me. I'm just, everybody use your own criteria. I understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like you had like a lot more like negative things to say than positive.
Yeah, but then I'll also like dump 5 hours into it, and it feels like time just kind of passed by. Like I'm like, oh, it's dark out now, huh?
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So at least it wasn't that monotonous that you still spent the 5 hours.
See, I mean, it just gives you a big open world to explore, and it's like, well, you figure out how to get to this place, or you figure out how to get to this like photo spot or whatever. So that's type of puzzle solving I like.
That's true. You are. It seems like very Assassin's Creed inspired there.
Yeah, but worse.
Worse.
Or worse than most of them.
I've only listened to the main theme and one of the battle tracks, and they both seemed good.
Yeah.
So I don't know
except when you hear the battle theme like 900 times.
Right. It's the music system more than the composition, I guess.
Yeah. Like if you just run across the world, you'll hear it like 800 times because like the second you run into an enemy, it'll kick right up, and it's like, I'm just running across this field. Like, leave me alone.
Harry Potter so far has done a nice job of giving a good variety of Harry Potter-y music. Like it has the big set piece moments, which honestly feel on par of the early John Williams scores. The music's really impressive. Then it also has the kind of lower budget, maybe not a full orchestra kind of underscore stuff for when you're just lulling about in the school. But like every house gets their own music. Seems like every time you go to a different part of the castle, you get a different track. So yeah, there's no complaints in the music. The music on Harry Potter has been, like everything, just perfectly evoking the setting. What I noted about Forspoken is that it kind of like it felt kind of like a typical modern video game score, like something like Recore or something to me, except with the addition of like modern like pop elements that you wouldn't normally pair with that kind of thing. Like especially in the main character theme, there was like a hip hop kind of sound here, and like
there's not that in the game at all to me.
Really? Okay.
No, I mean maybe in like the New York sections because that's where it makes the most sense.
Oh, that's probably what that is.
But yeah, like in the Athia, it's like nope, this is all fantasy crap.
Like it does a little bit of a Spider-Verse from what I've heard of the New York music. That's
the biggest problem is I talked about the character sucking. Mm-hmm. She has like no sense of wonder about the world she's in. Like she should be like, oh, there's magic, or how does this shit work, or anything like that.
Like what eventually happens with most isekais, where they eventually adapt to the world and start just appreciating the world for what it is, and stop being in that like they forget about where they're supposed to be and just start seeing like, okay, well, this is where I live now. I got to make the most of it,
Yeah.
So that never happens with her.
I mean, it happens like so late in the game that it becomes like meaningless. Like just like when you get the air magic, it's like, all right, well, this happened way too late. And even like like I said, even in like chapter 10, she's still a kind of a shithead. So it's like, all right, I don't really care about her journey.
Yeah, that's disappointing there.
Yeah.
Well, just because I feel like we should give the context of going through the latest announcements where we talk about some of the things that Nintendo, because it makes sense when we talk about some of the Nintendo kind of headlines that are coming out of that as well. There was a big Nintendo Direct that they had this past week, and they had plenty of stuff to announce. And for a while there, watching it just sequentially, I thought it was going to be like, oh man, this is what we waited 40 minutes for, this kind of like ho-hum kind of Direct. And then towards smack in the middle, it kind of started ramping up, and you got some of the big announcements, I think, that people were waiting on.
They didn't show like 5 fish. They didn't show 5 farming RPGs in a row.
Yeah, thank God. Thank God for that. They did still show one, the Fantasy Life one, but I guess you got to give them credit for, you guys still have that in your bag somewhere. Probably one of the biggest surprise probably is the fact that long rumored Metroid Prime remaster not only exists, it is out right now. You can go buy it for $40 right now on the Switch eShop, and it looks amazing. I don't know, it looks pretty awesome for the fact that it's it's still playing on the Switch. So they really overhauled that. Retro Studios did a great job overhauling that thing. Mark, I know you're a Metroid fan. I mean,
yeah, I never played Prime, and
okay.
Yeah, I think I played like once in the GameCube, and I really didn't like the controls. Like, I know this is better, but
yeah, they definitely improved the controls.
I'm not sure how much perspective I'll like it or not.
Yeah. Jens, are you a fan of the Metroid Primes at all, or?
I'm not.
You're not? Okay.
No.
I mean, if I get it, I'll probably get it physically when it's when they release it, like in a few weeks. Also.
Yeah, very interesting. Also, that they wanted to keep it a secret so much that they did the whole like movie thing where you released it digital first and then physical like 2 or 3 weeks later. We normally never see Nintendo do that because they want to take advantage of the whole. You can go to Walmart and buy it for $50 or whatever. I mean, so. That's interesting. I wonder if anybody else will start trying to use that in the future of, hey, let's try to get you to grab it digital, and then if you want to buy a physical later, go for it. Especially if retail starts wanting to lower their spaces like they do for movies, and they've been doing for movies and music for a while now. So that being said, I think obviously the biggest deal with this whole Direct is everybody was waiting for, what are they going to show for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Mark, I know you kind of like me.
A bad trailer.
Yeah, I mean, both of us are not, and I know a lot of people that might be listening or watching for the first time are going to be like, oh, this is blasphemy. I can't believe you guys are sitting here talking bad about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but neither one of us were like huge fans of the first game.
I mean, the problem with that trailer is that game is due out in 3 months. They showed no damn gameplay.
I think they're purposely trying to keep it cryptic.
But
I mean, also,
you know what that game is. I mean, it ain't a fucking mystery.
Right, but I think either they're going to do their typical thing where they do a big blowout of here's the gameplay overview, like a month or whatever out from the game, or they're going to just keep it cryptic like this because they don't want to reveal things maybe that they want to keep a surprise for people. I mean, this is like their big game of the entire year pretty much, so I don't necessarily blame them for not wanting to show everything.
I mean, show everything is one thing, but show anything is different.
But
they can make a car. That's about it.
Well, yeah, but like, okay, so what do you just said it? We know what this game is. So what did you want to see?
Like a new power, or more of the story, or any, like, just Link crafting something, or maybe like the crafting system is gone now, or something like that, or the durability is like not a factor anymore.
Okay. Just interesting that I figured we weren't going to get this whole big thing here. I wouldn't be surprised, as we normally get. I wouldn't be surprised if they get their own direct later. This is such a huge game; they could literally make it its own direct in a month or two.
It'll come out after the game is out. Here's all the stuff you missed.
Well, they could do that too, I guess. Right? Jens, do you have it? Well, he's fixing something. So, yeah, I get it. Like, right, you wanted to have something that kind of tells you, okay, maybe I should be more interested in this one than I was the last one.
Oh, here's the last trailer, and they got like 2 minutes left in the show. It's like, yeah, okay, but that game, that game is due out in 3 months. It's not like 2 years out or anything like that. So
right. Fair enough. You have a good point. I just think that we're gonna see something else.
I mean, I'll have another trailer out probably, but this is like their big. I would say they're probably their biggest moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's the big direct, right? But I think they do a good job of, like, in these big directs. I know there will probably be people that'll be like, "Well, I would have rather had like 5 games and each of them get like 6 or 7 minutes or whatever, and not have all this stuff."
Microsoft won, and that sucks because then you get games that you don't care about, like Elder Scrolls and Minecraft.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is like you're either in that camp or you get what you get in a direct, which is a bunch of different announcements. They don't overstay their welcome, and you move on. So I feel like if we've gotten a Xenoblade direct before, I think we can pretty much bank on the fact that we're going to get a Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom direct that's going to be like, hey, here's all the stuff, here's what's new, here's what's not. And then they'll probably do a treehouse thing where they show gameplay or whatever for people that want to watch it. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't think that it's something to get too hung up on, because we know it's because they have that time, they're going to have it.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be fine. I doubt I'll care much for it, but that's just I don't like the durability system in that game.
Right. I mean, are you how did you, do you have because I don't have it. Do you have the Switch Online?
No.
Thing? Okay.
I don't know if I still do or not. I doubt it, but.
I mean, so they kind of surprised us with the Game Boy and then Game Boy Advance stuff.
Yeah, it's been rumored for a while.
Yeah.
Most of those games are fine. There's some questionable omissions.
Well, I mean, they gotta give you reasons to stay subscribed, right? Like,
well, I mean, from the get-go, like Mario. I mean, Mario 2 is great, but what about Mario 1?
Yeah, I was surprised about why you're not you went in order with Kirby, but you didn't go in order with Super Mario. That seems.
Or the biggest head scratcher was Alone in the Dark, the new Nightmare.
Yeah, that one was like,
yep,
what?
Everyone's clamoring for this one.
Yeah.
Was that the one with Edward Carnby? I mean, is that the Xbox 360 PS3 one?
This is the Game Boy Color one.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, so they announced a bunch. They added the Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance to the Switch Online thing.
Wow. Okay.
So they announced the first games or whatever, and Alone in the Dark just felt really weird.
For all the people who don't have an analog pocket, here you go.
Weird. Okay.
I mean, most of these games are good, like Link's Awakening,
sure.
Metroid, Mario 6 Golden Coins, and like Legend of Zelda Minish Cap. But it's like no one's pining for Game & Watch Gallery 3 or Gargoyle's Quest. I mean,
yeah. I mean, Nintendo always puts look at the stuff that's come out for the longest time on the NES and SNES stuff is like games nobody asked for, but here they are.
Mm-hmm.
I did see someone ask the question, why is there any Pokemon games on here? It's like, because they're going to sell you that shit forever.
Yeah, they're going to charge.
Well, to be fair, there is also Pokemon Day pretty soon. So they might be waiting to announce that because they really don't have. This is going to be one of those Pokemon days where it's like a total surprise because we don't really know what's other than, okay, they could do Scarlet and Violet DLC, which I'd imagine they're going to. There's no way that's going to be a one-off with how much it's sold. It's like almost there's only 3 of the games that are higher selling than at this point.
I got 3 words for you. Pokemon Snap 2. There you go.
Oh, yeah, please don't. I was surprised that Kurukurukurin was announced in here.
Does that game ever come out in America?
But you know what? They could put Mother 3 on here on the Switch Online, and there you get a bunch of people that are gonna subscribe. All of a sudden, they have that hat in their bag that they can put in there. The Game Boy Advance stuff is obviously part of the Switch expansion pack also, so you have to have that, which I still think is crappy that you can't just add that onto the monthly thing. You have to buy that outright for a year, but whatever. That's Nintendo. It's how they do their thing. And I love the fact that I could possibly play Golden Sun again, which I love the crap out of that game. So I have to think about it, whether I want to do that just to play Golden Sun and a few other things. But at least they're bringing stuff in. It's something that people have been asking for a while, for them to bring Game Boy and Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color. And you can actually switch between all 3 depending on what you play it on. So there's that too. I don't know how much you use your Switch, Jens, or...
Bayonetta 3, and that's it.
I mean, that was a big use case this year. Put about 30 hours into
that. Do you have a affinity at all for the Breath of the Wild? Or
I liked it. I really liked Breath of the Wild. I had some complaints with it, the same ones that I think everybody had. The loot system, the weapon degradation system, all that stuff, the way the stamina worked, climbing and all those kind of things. Definitely stuff to get used to, but the world, the exploration, all those many, little dungeon puzzles scattered about. I had a really good time with it at the time.
Are you excited at all for Tears of the Kingdom? Or
I mean, it's really more a matter of just like, am I going to have time in my life for this? Am I actually going to be playing it?
Yeah.
The Breath of the Wild was such a big investment of time and energy. That's the one thing where that really, I just don't. I don't know if I still have it in me to like play a 150-hour game like that on the regular. It's like once every year maybe.
Right, I understand that.
So we'll see. Maybe that'll be one of them.
No, that'll be Yakuza.
Yakuza's not. That's probably more like 50. Unless you're doing all the... Ishin has this almost like a mobile game, kind of like dungeon crawly side mission kind of thing going, that if you wanted to, you could pump a lot of time into. But you don't have to.
I don't know if you've seen it or whatnot, but as someone that, you just say you spent some time with Bayonetta, how do you feel about this Bayonetta Origins?
Oh, I'll play it.
Game and
looks cute. Sure. I didn't like Bayonetta 3, so anything to wash that taste out of my mouth.
You didn't like it, okay?
Oh, not at all. No. That was the Duke Nukem Forever of Bayonetta games.
Damn.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Did not live up to the wait at all. And in fact, gave you the opposite of what you wanted in many ways. I saw that you'd put somebody had put Jens nominates Elden Ring and Bayonetta on the Game of the Year lists in the document. And I was like, nope, I do not.
Yeah, you do. you were playing Bayonetta 3 like 3 different times.
I'm halfway through New Game Plus. That's true.
Okay, so you played Bayonetta 3 for the whole time you played it?
There's still there's still things to like in there. It's mostly the story that pisses me off.
Okay. Yeah,
and
I've heard a lot of that.
And it's a game that can't get out of its own way with just whenever you get into a flow, it'll interrupt you with some bullshit. Like it just loves interrupting you with stuff like really dumb, time manipulation, platforming kind of stuff, or like weird mini games. Like pretty much at any point, anytime that you're like, I'm really enjoying this combat, it's like, nah, you don't get to do that anymore. Now do something else for a bit. But yeah, I don't want to get into the story stuff, but there's a particular kind of fetish on the internet where people just really like to see characters that they may be sexually attracted to in pain or in terrible situations. And that is, I think, the guiding principle behind this entire game. Because it's like, do you like Bayonetta? Do you like us shitting on Bayonetta for an entire game? Here it is. Do you want to see your favorite character die over and over and over again? Here it is. I finishes with the story.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Are either one of you Pikmin fans? Or
I appreciate it from like an aesthetic perspective. That's about it. I never played it.
I understand why it's liked. I get that it's a good game. It's not for me.
Yeah.
It's always been a series, like, I talked about Tinykin last week, that it's always been or not on the last show where we did the Game of the Year stuff. It's always been like a series that I appreciated, that I felt like if I would, give it time, I might probably enjoy, and I like Tinykin a lot. So I don't know if this would be my first Pikmin game or not, but I always find it just like an interesting concept of what they do in this game. And then it doesn't help at all that they added a dog that helps you out. So, it's like, that's the worst thing for me to see. You show me something with a dog in it, I might get me to buy this game.
Mm-hmm.
But really the new thing is that they added Ice Pikmin, and then of course this dog that can help you break through walls, and it will like charge through enemies and stuff like that as well. So, that's good that they're making this, and Miyamoto is spending his time with it. It comes out in July. So a lot of people were thinking they were going to put it out in like April to let it like die before Zelda, but it looks like they are really actually planning around it and trying to make it this like a big pillar for the year. So I guess good on Nintendo for that. So did you ever get to play Xenoblade 3 at all, Jens? Or
no, I haven't cracked it open yet. Even it's sitting on the collector's edition is sitting on the shelf.
Along with
my goodness,
more packages that are not.
I know.
Well, like you said, you don't have time for 100-hour games.
Yeah, no,
now. So
I want to. That's the thing.
Yeah.
If I've got that, I might put that ahead of Breath of the Wild 2 if it comes to it.
I mean, it's definitely the best one of those in all aspects. And
oh yeah, really good.
Yes, it's great. It deserves all the hype that it has received throughout the year. People giving it Game of the Years and everything else and all that. Well, the people that want to be different, but they're putting it high on lists and stuff because it deserves it. It really is. They basically took everything that made 1 and 2, smashed it into this game, and then added characters that you love and a story that's great. And I'm not going to say that it's consistently great throughout the whole thing. It definitely has its peaks and valleys, but for the most part. And then they introduce the as we've seen with all of these, they end up having that 4th expansion pass part is going to be a story thing. And this one is going to be, it seems like a prequel to a sequel to 1 and 2, but a prequel to 3. So what they showed was a more adult Shulk, adult Rex, and some other character. I don't want to put it on here because of spoilers or whatever, but
Mario.
Yeah. So it looks and a character that you will probably know very well from Xenoblade 1, Jens. So he's going to be the main baddie in this one. It looks like. So yeah, it that looks like it's going to deliver. I really hope it does. And I hope it's more. It doesn't necessarily need to be the length of Golden Torna, because that was definitely inflated.
Like 30 hours, yeah.
Yeah, it was inflated by the mandatory side quests that they made you do, which was so annoying. But I don't need it to be this like what felt like a little 5-hour experience that was the future connected thing either. So hopefully it's something in between while delivering a good story. And then I really do hope we get something that flashes forward with what happens to the characters because of the way the game ends. It would be nice to know like what happens with them, especially if this is going to be the end. And that's they're supposed to be like, this is basically like what Kingdom Hearts was supposed to be, where this is the end of this arc. So if they start a Xenoblade floor, it's supposedly not have anything to do with these characters, but I guess we'll see what they end up doing.
It makes some sense to reboot at this point, just because, the amount of legacy information that you have to keep track of to still be in the series. I'd assume they'd also get rid of the numbering, if they do that.
They might do that as well, yeah.
Try and bring in a new audience.
I mean, I don't know if they will even attempt to bring Xenoblade Chronicles X to the Switch or not.
Oh, I would love that.
But I mean, definitely Monolith has proven that they could do it if they really want to.
That's one of the very few still Wii U exclusives, right? That's just trapped on there.
Yeah, very few. You're not wrong. We're getting to the point where it is very few of the big games. But speaking of a series I know you do like, Ghost Trick.
Yes, I'm actually very excited about this. This is the one thing that Marc told me about from the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
I mean, so like people that saw this and go, okay, I don't really understand why this is a big deal. Like, why is it? Why do you enjoy it a lot?
Well, it's just a very unique and brilliantly designed adventure game. It's from the Phoenix Wright team, but it's more like a traditional adventure game in that it's less, it's less about gathering evidence and all that kind of thing, and more about, Rube Goldbergian kind of puzzles, similar to what. Yeah.
No.
Oh no! Please, Marc, go on.
No, I was gonna say it's like trying to figure out how to maneuver someone into a specific area.
Yeah.
In order to do something to them.
There's a lot of traversal, right? So you're a ghost. You can possess things, and as you can see in the clip that if you're watching the video that Sean is currently playing, you are manipulating. You're taking control of animals or objects in the environment and manipulating them to, keep this woman safe from assailants, to help guide the mystery along, to help her investigation. You're the ghost of a detective who's been murdered at the beginning of the game, and you're trying to help the next person solve this crime. And it's just funny and charming and lovable and brilliantly designed. The 3D, I think it was not a 3DS, it was just a DS game. The DS game was really rare and expensive for a long time.
Still is.
Still is. I mean, I have it in my collection. One of my most prized games, honestly. But I also really loved it on iOS, and that version was one that, when they dropped support for it, phones that still had it installed became really valuable in the secondary market. And you're like, hey, you can buy an iPhone that still has Ghost Trick on it for however many hundreds of dollars. An old one.
I think mine still has it, or my iPod.
Well, I mean, I think it's effectively devalued by this re-release, right?
Right.
The point I'm getting at is this was kind of a cult game, and then it became very, very rare and difficult to get a hold of for a long time. So it returning now on the Switch, which is the most popular and propagated platform that there is in terms of game consoles, is a great thing. It just means that it's going to be available to the widest possible audience. If that audience, hopefully the audience will care, because they should, because it's a great game.
And other platforms too.
Yeah,
Coming back to mobile. Good news. Also,
No, I meant like PS4 and PC.
okay.
And,
yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought it was just Switch.
No, a lot of these things are. I mean, even Octopath 2 is going to be on PS4 and Switch, PC. Actually, not going to be on Xbox, which is weird. But
I will say this: I fully expect the Switch version though to be the definitive one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it is a point-and-click focused game, and unlike the Ace Attorney games, it's much more based on like timing and doing things in the right moment. So it's I think not having in this case a touch screen would be an impediment.
I mean, technically, the Switch does have a touchscreen. They just don't use it.
That's what I mean. I think on the Switch, I think it'd be ideal. Like you'd have to play it undocked. You couldn't play it docked. Docked, you would lose that. But I actually think ideally you'd want to play that one undocked on the Switch. Is what I'm thinking, because you're going to lose some of that fidelity that you want of control. I think.
Yeah.
With a controller, unless they come up with a really brilliant way of giving you direct control over your ghostly cursor that's switching from object to object. Maybe there's like a thing to be done where you can kind of, move the stick in the general direction of what you want to possess, and that it'll highlight. They'd have to completely overhaul how it works to make it work well with a controller. I think that's my concern.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to do that because Nintendo doesn't really even do games that play only in one way. They have to make the Switch, be able to play docked.
How to play that game docked.
Yeah,
you're right. There'll be an alternate way of doing it, but I just think that they need to preserve the point and click.
Oh no, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. It definitely needs to feel that same way that you're used to playing it when you play it portably. I mean, they also gave another DS series some love as well. Etrian Odyssey gets an HD collection.
Well. That's great.
Of the first 3 games are going to come to the Switch now. So, good to see Atlas is basically just taking this avenue of let's just port all our shit to the Switch. I mean, it's about time. Let's do this. They should
do that with 3D Game Heroes.
Time to take out that pen and paper again and start drawing maps.
No, it has like some like crazy mode that you can do that in the game.
Oh, it gives you a map drawer.
Yeah,
cool. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, so this is going to be cool that they're going to have this on Switch. I'm glad that it's coming. I was a fan of these games, so we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to end up, picking it up or whatever on Switch, but mainly because I'm excited for them bringing back Baten Kaitos instead. Also,
who's that? Baten Kaitos? What?
Yeah, they're bringing Baten Kaitos from the GameCube.
This one I'm not familiar with at all. So.
Yeah,
it's like some weird.
It's an RPG like card game that, it's something that like is totally cool today, right? But back in the day, you didn't have games like this that are RPGs that play with cards, and sometimes you get a bad hand, sometimes you get a good hand. And it's bringing both the games, so like it's the first game, and then technically the number 2 game is actually a prequel. It's not a sequel. So yeah, it's just.
Is this a remake? Like a full-on remake?
No, it's like a remaster.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
It looks really good for what it is.
Yeah, but I mean, I love that they're doing this stuff. Now, obviously, they kind of need to do. They need some of this because again, the Switch is getting like long in the tooth, but it's perfect for this kind of thing, and it's cool that we get to like relive these classics that you can't get anywhere. Try to buy this now, it's probably not going to happen. So I'm glad that they're bringing this back on the Switch for sure. Like one of those.
It's actually not that expensive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but like, okay, I want to go buy GameCube. I'm going to go try to.
Ghost Trick prices, let's say that.
Yeah, it's not
like $150.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I still think it's cool when they do stuff like this, that they bring these games. The same thing with like the We Love Katamari Reroll World Reverie getting brought back as well. They did the same thing with the Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe that they're also bringing in. which that's coming later this month. So you have that, and a game that you're playing right now, Mark, Fire Emblem Engage. It got an expansion pass.
Yeah.
So where they announced more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much you care about all these characters or whatever, but
I don't know any of them. So.
Yeah, it's like
I want to get the expansion pass because it currently already has the three houses characters. And that's all I care about.
Right. But hey, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and just buy this expansion pass, so you're getting more characters from different parts of the Fire Emblem series there. So you're not playing Engage, Jens?
No.
He's down to about one game a month. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Life, man.
Life is. That happens to all of us. I have times where I had a whole 3-4 months where I couldn't do anything for a while. So it happens. Another thing I thought was awesome was the fact that there was a moment in time where Level 5 was supposedly done with the U.S. audience, and they were not going to bring anything over to the West, and they were done making these big games. And not only did they're not done. They're bringing 3 games to the Switch: a new Professor Layton, a new Fantasy Life: The Girl Who Steals Time, and then a new IP called Deca Police, which I found interesting.
Yeah, you might like that one, Jens.
Yeah.
It looks like some weird anime nonsense.
It kind of gives me like World Ends With You and other types of vibes.
Okay. This footage looks good.
Yeah, it has like investigation stuff along with like turn-based battle system.
It's like weird like cyberpunk Astral Chain.
Yeah, that too has Astral Chain vibes in here too. So yeah, I this was kind of like one of those like, okay, had no idea this was getting made, and
the VR puzzle solving is giving me some like AI Somnium file vibes a little bit.
Yeah, that too. Cool. I think it's cool that Level 5 is back. They make great games, and I'm a fan of the Layton series as well, so I'm glad to see that is not going anywhere, and that's staying on and still being on Switch. And I mean, there was other stuff announced in here like that. They showed another trailer for that Dead Cells Return to Castlevania, which I'm sure you're interested in, Mark.
Advance Wars thing's finally got a release date.
Yes, exactly. Advance Wars finally has a release date. Damn it! Almost a year since when it was going to release the first time. New Mario Kart 8 booster course packs, and Birdo is added as a character. And apparently, the last booster course is going to add more characters. So I guess get ready for that. If you were missing the fact that they weren't adding characters previously, you get that in there as well. And a new Don't Nod game, The Harmony, The Fall of Reverie, looked pretty neat as well. So there was a lot in here. I thought this was a pretty good direct for the most part.
You can't forget the most important game, new Samba de Amigo.
Yes. Well, I forgot. Damn it! It's a rhythm game. I shouldn't be forgetting about it. It's the fact that you have to use I guess you have to use like Just Dance, where you actually have to move around and stuff like that. You can't play it like the other kind of rhythm games. Like I guess like the other rhythm, you can't play it like that.
Well, that was always Samba de Amigo's thing.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, that's like, again, like, see, this is the cool stuff about the Switch. You can have all these kind of different experiences on there, and why not? Didn't think we were going to get a new Samba de Amigo, but it is there. And I did pick up that WSBC or WBSC eBaseball thing from Konami that they're selling for like $1 on the Switch shop. It's like one of those arcade baseball games, but they look like little miniature, like chibi versions. So I got through the tutorial as far as I've gotten on my lunch break. but I'll probably have thoughts on it next week for sure. Marc, like you enjoyed this direct for the most part, or?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, except for the last part, but yeah.
Yeah, the Tears of the Kingdom stuff that you're not happy about. Something else. Go ahead.
That Disney game doesn't look great to me, but
the Illusion Island game, or
right, yeah.
The art style is already kind of for me.
Right.
It's trying to ape those old like Mickey's Illusion games, and I think it'll be fine. I don't think it's going to be this, let's usher in this new wave of Mickey games or anything.
Right.
And we're still waiting for the Disney free-to-play kart racer thing. I think that comes out in a couple months. So, was it Speedstorm or something? Something to that effect. Something that people also were not happy about when it involves Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is the fact that it will be $70. Yes, Nintendo is now doing $70 games, folks.
Well, but not for all of them, right? This is just this one.
Not for all of them. So they're doing it on a case-by-case basis. Basically, the games that they know are going to be. I wonder if Pokemon is going to be $70 now.
Probably.
If they make a new Pokemon in the future. But like the games they know are going to be the big deal. Like I'm sure the next Mario will probably be $70 if that even gets made for this current version of the Switch. Which it seems like that's the one big game that I think people are kind of waiting on. Like, when's the next Mario?
I doubt it, because I think it's too late.
But yeah, so Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is going to be $70. But like, we just saw in this direct, right? Metroid Prime Remaster, which they could have sold for $70 or $60 because they've done that before with remasters. We've seen them do it. They charge $40 for it. And then Pikmin 4 is $60. So it's not every game, but it will be. We'll probably see it happen more. What do you say to the people that are saying that this system's old? Why are they doing $70 games when this is not like the PS5 or Series X that has the new gen graphics and all that?
I can somewhat understand. Oh, sorry, Marc.
I was going to say because they know people will pay for it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can somewhat understand the argument of it's because the justification for the $70 price tag on the PS5 and Xbox was, it's development costs, right? Like these games are so much bigger and better and take so much more to develop that of course the price is going up. So because I think that was Microsoft's and Sony's justification, I can see why some people would say, well, Nintendo doesn't have that justification. But as Marc says, the reality is they do it because they can. They don't need that justification.
Yeah.
I definitely Nintendo does things because they can. I mean, look what they did with that Mario collection. So like they definitely don't have to do this, but they're doing it because exactly what Marc said. They know people will pay the $70. No question. They've already proven that they will pay $70 for the Sony games. So why not? Things are costing more. So when you got your premium AAA game that you're really hoping is going to be the next thing that sells consoles for you, why not charge a premium price for it? Again, not saying that it's okay to charge $70. They've already said they're not going to do it for everything, and they've shown you that they're not. As long as they don't get into the Sony thing where everything is $70, even if it's with some of that is like or the third parties where everything, even some people will say Forspoken isn't worth the $70. Even that was $70. Yeah, exactly. So there you go. I'm glad to see Nintendo is not taking that route, even though they really could. That being said, they do feel like they're in uncharted territory with the Switch. I mean, it's sold 122 million units. It's only behind the Nintendo DS, Sony PlayStation 2, as far as like milestones when it comes to console sales. And that's amazing in itself. The Switch is, this old and still selling well. And people are still getting excited for games coming to it and everything else. which obviously puts Nintendo in a bind of what do we do? Do we make a whole new different system, or do we make a Switch 2 that's just more powerful than the Switch 1? Like, what do you guys think about as far as how much longer do you think the Switch can really last before we start seeing it dip? And the fact that Nintendo's saying we're not going to do any price cuts, we're not going to do any kind of price cuts to our games either, unless we want it to be that price. I mean, do you really think it can last another 2 years or whatever?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
2 years, not a problem. It's got legs. It's got 2 more years of legs for sure.
I mean, I don't think it should, but it's going to have to, because they have made like little enough work in the next successor. So,
but also we're living in a time where just generally, the PlayStation 5 is not, just by virtue of being in such short supply, has not been able to sell through as much as it hasn't propagated the way that it probably should have, based on demand. So this whole generation is going to last longer. I think the Xbox is going to last longer. I don't think people are going to be as willing to upgrade. I definitely think that when it comes to Nintendo, there is a certain type of person who is just chomping at the bits, because I feel we get this rumor every 6 months it's going to be the new Switch. It's going to be the new Switch.
Yeah.
Switch HD. And I just don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't think it needs to. Because as far as mainstream goes,
it definitely needs to, though, because like certain Switch games don't run well.
Oh yeah,
like Bayonetta 3 or Pokemon. So
you can make that argument from a pure power standpoint, but I mean,
and even like
Breath
of the Wild didn't run particularly great, and that was a launch game.
Sure, it's always been an underpowered system. It was underpowered when it came out, but
so I think
that hasn't really hurt it.
I don't think a Switch Pro is going to happen, but I think Switch 2 with like backward compatibility, like the 3DS, essentially.
I just think they've got another couple of years before they even have to think about demand waning.
Yeah, I mean, if they keep making banger games, like if this Zelda Tears of the Kingdom reaches any of the heights of the original, and people are just as enamored with it and can spend all that time with it, I think definitely you're going to see that sell more consoles. Every time a Pokemon game comes out, it is still selling crazy numbers. It's still selling consoles. It's crazy how deep in the bag they have gone, and these games keep selling for it. So Mario Kart keeps selling. It's ridiculous. And then they, of course, rewarded people by bringing this DLC out to get people to buy more Mario Kart. I think if they can keep doing stuff like this, and then also when you're adding things to your Switch Online, banking on your retro, I think you definitely could last 2 years. Will everybody be okay with using their Switch for 2 years from now, especially if, let's say, the Steam Deck gets more and more marketplace value by then? Maybe not. Is Nintendo working on whatever the next Switch successor is at this point? Yes, they are. They're definitely doing that. They just don't want to talk about it because it will cannibalize Switch sales.
They need to be working on it, but I don't think it's urgent for them to put anything out anytime soon. I think they've got a little bit more time.
I mean, knowing Nintendo, they're crazy enough to just say, okay, well, the Switch was the thing. We're going to do something else. Do you think for sure it is a Switch 2 or it's something completely different?
I could see them going handheld only.
Yeah. I think you have to have some form of the Switch going forward. Like, I think if you want to move on to something else, right, and you say, okay, we have this second pillar that's like home console only and allows us to do this and this that we can't do with the Switch, whatever. But I feel like the Switch is now the new 3DS or the new DS or whatever. Like, you have to have something because people are just Nintendo is when you think of Nintendo for the past whenever the DS, for their long history, they're a portable system along with their home consoles. And if you look at it, what is sold more? They're portables. So
except for the Wii.
Except for the Wii, but that's because that was just such a unique system that was never seen before then. But unless you can somehow do something like that, which even with the way that VR exists now, I just don't know what else you can really put out there that is so different to how we play a game that you have to have some kind of switch going forward. So whether they're working on two things or just a switch to, I agree with you, Jens. I think 2 years definitely gives them that cushion to keep going. It's going to be interesting when we get to around like June, Summer Game Fest time or whatever. What do they have to announce? Because right now, they put out everything almost. Anyway, like we really don't know what's going to be their fall game because it's under wraps right now, whatever it is. Unless Pokemon Day is going to show us that, which I guess they could. But yeah, it'll be definitely be. They are certainly. I feel like in uncharted waters because by now we would have started to hear about something, But the Switch is selling so well, they don't need to do that.
Nope.
For sure. Just something I thought was interesting because you might like this. I know you like Nier, Jens, and maybe mobile games are not anyone's bag here for the most part, but Sega is taking a page out of the Neptunia book here and decided to make a mobile game with Yoko Taro called 404 Game Reset with a colon and then set. And basically it takes characters, makes Sega IP into female characters. As we see, like the representation of Neptunia being various game industry, folks or whatever. So, like for example, like Afterburner, Outrun, Virtual Cop, Virtual Fighter, they're all represented by female characters. And I don't know if this is going to be a gacha game or what kind of game.
I fully expect it will be a gacha game. That is why you would do something like this.
Very interesting that they decided to do that. I just thought it was kind of cool. Like you don't see this every day.
I'm in favor of the waifuification or bishoujuification of all things. So very much in favor of that.
That's why you're a big Neptunia fan.
Well, I don't play mobile games. I think the last mobile game I played was Jetpack Joyride like a decade ago. But I know people seem to like that Sinnoh Alice, which is a Yoko Taro mobile game with gacha elements, if I am not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I assume it'll be something in that vein, that Sinnoh Alice vein.
Yeah, I mean you go ahead, sorry.
Isn't this just like a waste of his talents?
Yeah, he doesn't have anything better to do.
I mean, but it's the same thing as like Sakaguchi. It's like, really? You're just going to make mobile crap from now on?
To be fair, Fantasian is apparently great. Just I don't have an Apple device to be able to play it, but
But what would you rather play? Like The Last Story or in Lost Odyssey or Terror Battle and Fantasian?
Well, like I said, Fantasian, I've heard great things, but would I love to have another Lost Odyssey or whatever? Sure.
I mean, at least Yoko Taro isn't explicitly moving to mobile. Like this is just, he showed up for a weekend and banged this out, or he wrote something down on a notepad and that was it. But
yeah,
I mean, I expect him to make console games in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with how successful Nier Automata was, I think he knows that, there's got to be a next Nier in all of this or whatever he wants.
I don't know about that, but
you don't think so? Like, you don't think there will be a?
I think Automata kind of ends on a pretty definite note. He'll do something else.
Yeah,
he'll make another Drakengard game.
I was just gonna say Drakengard 4. That would be something.
Yeah. He definitely could do that as well. Go in that vein, or just make a new IP as well. So,
but this is perfect for him. Imagining what things would look like as waifus.
Again, it's Neptunia.
Yeah, or with the propagation of Genshin Impact as well. Like
exactly.
Sega trying to get the next big gacha game with their own franchises. I mean, why not?
See, my hope of the for the new Switch would just be a Bishoju statue of what if the Switch was an anime girl. You know,
it looks like the main character from Fire Emblem Engage with the red and blue hair.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. Only now she'll be in a bikini.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that they added this thing in here, and I was like, I thought at first when I saw the name of the game, I was like, is this actually like real? I mean, what happened here? And then they actually did it. So interesting that they went that route.
I'm in favor.
Yeah. And there's apparently, if you want to watch like a long version of it, they have a Japanese trailer that's like 7 minutes long. You can just kind of watch videos too. But I don't like the other news that's been going and has to do again with the same. I don't want to go in the same cycle of talking about the Xbox, Microsoft, Activision deal or whatever, what the latest thing is with that. Just should note that they have been reports of, well, what if we get into the situation where all those governing bodies find a way to block this deal, and it's definitely not going to happen. What would happen to Activision-Blizzard in that case? And the Wall Street Journal and Fox Business now basically got word from, if it breaks down, Bobby Kotick will stick around at Activision-Blizzard, which would be to the detriment of everybody there. I mean, not to mention, like, do you feel like they can really keep going in that state if, say, this deal somehow falls through? Like,
look at the sales figures of Modern Warfare 2. Yes, they can.
Yeah, but I mean, just
they're not in dire straits.
Huh?
They're not in dire straits as a company,
right?
Yeah,
it's not like Diablo 4 is going to bomb. Like, that'll probably be pretty well.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
And, all their other crap, it's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I wonder how much that would hurt as far as like creativity, how much the working staff would really want to not be there any longer. Like, how many people would walk out of Activision Blizzard if it doesn't go through because, okay, we're going to stick with the same old dude that was okay with all this stuff happening that got them into this problem in the first place, that was kind of the antecedent to why this takeover even happened, because they kind of wanted out before it got really bad. So
I would say not enough to materially care either way.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some brain drain, but it won't be,
right.
This is not something that they can't hire more people or bounce back from.
If it was like 20%, we'd be like, all right, we still got oodles of more employees to take over. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean ongoing projects might be affected, but
right.
I think the company as a whole will live.
Yeah,
Unlike
the company is going to be okay because they have Call of Duty and they have, the Blizzard properties or whatever. But I definitely think you would see like a, maybe not mass exodus, but you would definitely see an exodus starting.
Sure.
Of people that are just like, I thought we were going to be in a better place, and now since we're not, might as well try to find work somewhere else, And
then they can be bought up by Activision later on.
Yes, I guess definitely they could. I don't know. I just didn't want to go into that whole thing with the. I'm just gonna wait to this point until there's actually information of they're really gonna do this, and this is what's gonna wind up happening, and then this is gonna close or it's not gonna close, and that's kind of it. Because this whole like, will they, won't they? Is Microsoft gonna sue? Are they not? Is somebody gonna block it? Are they not? Is just overwhelming and annoying. So I'm kind of over it at this point. I'm sure you are, Mark, and I'm sure a lot of people are. So
well,
we're going to leave it there.
The one thing that happened this week was the UK, one of the UK bodies said, like, split up the company. So
yeah, Microsoft's not doing that. Yeah, Microsoft's not doing that though. Like,
right. So.
Either way, that's the thing is, if Microsoft ever just says, you know what, we're going to sue you guys, and they go to court, they're going to lose. Yeah. So they're trying to prevent Microsoft from just saying, screw all this, we're just going to sue everybody, and then you're not going to be able to tell us to be able to do anything. So, go get concessions while you can, but I don't think Microsoft will go for that at all because
I did too. The funny point that because of how they handled Bethesda, like how they relegated, like, Starfield and whatever else to Xbox, that ultimately hurt them.
Yeah, I mean, it's true.
Yep.
It's true as far as saying that your company's not going to make this game and this game exclusive or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hurts because the precedent that you set was, oh, we put all these games as exclusive.
Instantly on, or as much as we can.
Yeah, and then the Minecraft thing, that's old. Like you decided that a long time ago as far as, oh, we're going to keep that multi-platform. And then, of course you're going to keep all these MMOs multi-platform because that would kill those MMOs. So of course you're going to keep them where they are. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you even have a thought or care on this at all, Jens, because I don't.
I think it'll happen. That's pretty much the end of it. Like, I'm not really worried about what'll happen if it doesn't happen because I think it'll happen.
Yeah, I ultimately think it's going to happen as well. Like, it's just we're just drawing this out. And,
but that's not. I mean, I understand your impatience of being tired of talking about it because you're doing a weekly show where you talk about video game news. But we're used. These things take these kind of takeovers. They take years, and you hear about them periodically, and there's just a lot of legal back and forth, and there's really no point worrying about it too much.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's pretty much it for the show this week. Thank you, Jens, so much for being on.
Mm-hmm. Sorry about the technical issues.
Oh, no problem. It happens. You can check out Jens while the show's going on. I don't know how frequent you guys are going to be after Last of Us HBO is off, but
well, we want to get back into movies. We're not just doing Last of Us, so I'm hoping. The last time it was a matter of Randy's schedule completely changing, and then my schedule also completely changing. But as far as if we're just doing movies, I think we can keep it going. So that's the idea, at least at the moment.
I'll be looking forward to y'all's Mario movie review.
Yes, we're gonna do the the Mario director's cut or the original cut that leaked.
Okay, the original movie,
of the 90s movie. So we're gonna do that next before we do the new theatrical one. So our next two movies after Last of Us, I think, will be Mario's.
I heard Randy's gonna make you watch that canceled Netflix Resident Evil show. So
I'm the good thing about there's a lot of media out there now as far as video game adaptations, and I'm hoping that'll help me keep the Resident Evil at bay for a while because I'm Resident Evil'd out.
Yeah. Well,
you're not gonna watch that new CGI movie?
No.
I've got Resident Evil and Alcatraz.
Does it look bad? And I've got the last 3 Resident Evil CGI movies sitting here.
They were also bad, so there you go. Yeah, like it continues the trend.
I got them for the podcast originally, so we'll get to them eventually.
Well, and if anything, you can always tell Randy he's got to watch the Cyberpunk anime, which is actually really good. So
yeah, that's some of these things I've already watched all of Arcane. And most of Castlevania, so those probably would not be candidates. Though Arcane, you could make an argument.
Yeah, it's short enough that it does. It won awards and everything. So
it's one of the best video game adaptations for sure. That and Castlevania are the other two besides Last of Us.
Did you see that they did the first ever video game Grammy this year?
I did not see it.
Assassin's Creed won for the best soundtrack.
For music, you mean? I did see that.
Yeah, for music, yeah.
He said Grammy, so you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
What did you? I mean, I didn't really agree with the list of nominees per se, but
all right. Let me look at this Grammy video game soundtrack. My favorites.
Nominated for a few times, or
let's see here. So we've got Aliens Fireteam Elite, which I completely agree with. That would have been on my list of best soundtracks, except here's the issue: it's actually a 2021 game, so I don't think it should have even qualified.
Well, same with Valhalla.
Yeah.
Oh, Dawn! No, but that's because it's Dawn of Ragnarok. It's the DLC,
right?
So that's actually a new release, and it's a different composer than the main game as well. It's a lady whose name I now can't.
I think also the Grammys don't necessarily go from December to January or whatever. They have a different timeline.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So Assassin's Creed, I've not actually heard that one. I like Call of Duty Vanguard, though it's not my favorite Bear McCreary this year. Marvel's Guardians is good.
Marvel's Guardians, yeah.
I assume Old World is good, just based on the fact that Christopher Tin is a great composer. I'm ashamed to say that I do not know half of these scores.
There you go.
What are we doing tonight?
My list would be very different. I would have stuff like Harvestella on there and Valkyria Elysium.
Wow, that's some interesting choices there for sure. All right. Well, again, thank you, Jens, for joining us. We will be back next week around same time, same channel, all that good stuff. And until next week, folks, we'll see you later.
Later.